You can put it on the board. Yeah. Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their New York steaks, the filet mignons, and of course the kings of all, those massive cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Hell, even those Prime Angus and Wagyu burgers, best I've ever had, likely be the best you've ever had as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com on your mobile device or your computer. Or hell, maybe you want to give them a call. Find out what's for dinner. 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935 for UppercutChops.com. Yes! All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, plus our independents, as well as everybody watching on Instagram, Facebook, and AMP TV, AAMP.TV. Like, subscribe, and follow. Also welcome in to everybody on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Time Warner, and WOW Cable Television affiliates, and Hotel TV in over 500,000 rooms. So, we all watch football. We all watch these sports. We're spectators, right? So these are spectator sports. What happens when something happens on the field and there's no recourse? Let's just take a football game. What happens when a referee interferes on a play, but there's no one to blame because, it's just incidental contact or some crap like that? So what happens? There's no recourse. What about the bettors out there? Everybody betting on these games, they say, oh crap, that referee just got in the way. How about when a referee interferes in the Vikings and Commanders game? How about that? This actually happened. Referee interferes with Vikings defender on Washington's touchdown pass to Curtis Samuel. How about this one? And of course, referees can't flag themselves now, can they? Nah. Why would they want to do that? Absolutely not. But that's a good thing, though, of course, for the Commanders, which are the former Washington football team, which is the former Washington Redskins. Nonetheless, the Commanders quarterback, Taylor Heinicke, threw a wild go-ahead touchdown pass to Curtis Samuel against the Vikings. And, of course, he got some help from an official along the way. So facing 2nd and 7 from Minnesota's 49, early in the third, Heinicke looked deep to Samuel on a post route in triple coverage, right? Who threw it in triple coverage on a regular basis? That would be Train Rex Grossman. The old Chicago Bears quarterback that traveled to here, there, and wherever. I think he was from Santa Claus, Indiana, if I'm not mistaken. Nonetheless, Viking safety Cameron Bynum had a beat on the pass and was in position to make a play in the ball. That is until he met an unobstructed, or better yet, an unexpected obstruction. Right? Imagine if you were betting on the other team, right? And your team was actually interfered with. So therefore, now you have a real problem. And again, you have no recourse. So the official downfield found himself in the middle of traffic. What the hell are they doing in the middle of traffic in the first place? They're not supposed to be in the play. And of course, then Bynum barreled into him as he set to make the play on the ball. Well, guess what? The referee knocks him down. Bynum and the officials tumbled to the turf, and Samuel caught the ball and rolled into the end zone untouched for a 49-yard touchdown. That stinks. And of course, that gave Washington a lead 10-7. And if you were betting on a quarter-by-quarter basis, or maybe you were one of those live bettors, right, on one of those, pick your favorite, your favorite medium, whoever you bet with, one of those fantasy sports kind of things. Nonetheless, seems like you could have lost some money on that. And of course, officials reviewed the play to confirm that Samuel wasn't touched down before rolling into the end zone. No, apparently not. Pass interference by an official is, of course, not a thing. And even if it was, it wouldn't be reviewable. Now, what kind of crap is that? I mean, look, there should be something in the same light that, for example, in certain stadiums will write if you hit the top of the dome in Tampa with it's a live baseball, right? It's a live baseball there. And so wherever it lands, where it lands. But that's on a stadium-by-stadium basis. Some stadiums may have a rule where if it hits the top of the dome and it deflects the ball or something, maybe even in football, if it hits the Dallas Cowboys scoreboard, Maybe something happens. I don't know. But there's got to be something where some kind of interference along the way will negate the play. Unfortunately, that is not the case. And even Fox officiating analyst Dean Blandino says, quote, "The officials a part of the field, just a bad break," close quote. What do you mean the officials a part of the field? It's a human being. He's not a part of the turf, right? Think about that. If that's the case, then the turf would have 3 dimensions to it, right? Instead of just length and width. It wouldn't have depth. Well, depth is brought by the human element or some other element. So therefore, what they're saying is any obstruction on the field, apparently, well, that's part of the field. And that in itself is fundamentally wrong. So I think the NFL needs to rewrite that part of the rule books, because that is something, I mean, when they have those player meetings, or better yet, the owners' meetings, this is something that needs to be addressed because it is fundamentally wrong. And let's face it, folks, I know this, you may know this, but there has been some gambling on sports, if you know what I mean.
Show me the money!
Right. And there have been some games that are remarkably, conveniently compromised, seemingly in the interest of...
Show me the money!
Right. And so could it be that an official, I don't know, just by chance, happens to be in the middle of play somewhere? Could it be where if they're in the middle of play, that they're conveniently in the middle of play? Now remember, all those people on the field, in the field of play, the lowest paid people on the field, in the field of play, are the officials. Who is the highest organizations paid in this whole grand scheme of things? I would argue in all the affiliations, maybe it's the TV contracts, big money there, but I would argue the biggest cash flow, in my opinion, are the casinos. And so, of course, the odds makers have a little bit to say about this, in my opinion. Of course, all this is editorial. It's all fun. But it is remarkably compelling that these things happen and certain things happen on the field. And you're like, how the hell did that happen? What? How did that illegal hands to the face get called? Or how did this sack get called? Or this not the sack, but maybe the roughing the quarterback call get called? How did all this stuff happen? What about the tuck rule? Right? What about all these things that happen conveniently on the field and you can't really explain it? And then you have some knucklehead say, well, you know, that's just the official's part of the field. Okay, so maybe they're a part of the field. But does that mean that that play ought to count? If they're a part of the field, maybe there's an obstruction of the field. Kind of like when you're driving your car down the road. What if there's an enormous pothole? What if you happen to live in, I don't know, Detroit, right? And the potholes over there are sometimes as big as seemingly as bumpers on cars. And sometimes you go into the pothole and it actually takes the bumper off your car. And so what about those situations? Oh, sorry. Yeah, we don't have any liability. That'd be maybe, in this case, the city of Detroit. What about somewhere in Wayne County? The fact is, there have to be rules. There has to be some kind of rules to extenuate this and to say, look, there are some extenuating circumstances. Well, let's not try to ignore it. Let's try to address it. So in the case that an official by happen to get in the way, and look, we know that even in baseball, maybe the ball will hit the second base umpire from time to time. Yes, they're in the field of play. Is highly unlikely. But in football, there's 22 people on the field at the same damn time. Never mind the officials, right? You got a lot of officials on there. And so, unfortunately, what you have, well, let's face it. When officials get in the way of something, where is the liability? There's got to be some accountability somewhere. Unfortunately, there happens not to be. Even the Fox officiating crew says the same thing. So nonetheless, back to the actual play, Curtis Samuel caught the ball, whatever, rolled into the touchdown, whatever. The play stood, which gave Washington a 3-point lead. But the good news is for Minnesota, well, that's basically the way it ended. And of course, Minnesota scored 13 unanswered points in the fourth for a 20-17 win. And I'm glad it didn't affect the final score as far as it didn't affect the game. It affected the final score. It certainly affected the point spread because you take those 7 points away from Minnesota or from Washington, and it happens that, well, the betting audience would have a very different result. But because this touchdown was allowed, it seems as though the betting crowd really got the short end of the stick with all this stuff. Better yet, they got the short end of the Brinks truck on this one. And so who is to blame? It's the rules, and it is the owners. The owners, and of course, Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell just steps aside, takes his tens of millions of dollars every year. You guys do what you got to do. I think he's paid to stay out of the way, in my opinion. Nonetheless, that's how the ball bounces in the National Football League. We're going to be back here on the circus in just a few minutes. Lots more to come. We're going to shift into hockey after one more football story. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
What does he think I am, an imbecile? You nitwit. Leave him alone, you nitwit.
What's up, Doc?
I gotta barbecue your anti-molest!
What does he think I am, an imbecile?
Leave him alone. What's up,
Quiet.
Doc?
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio. That's AAMP.TV. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, our recorded shows, which are a podcast. Of course, they can be found on pick your favorite platform. Go to the Sports Circus homepage, and you'll find all of those platform links, hot links to our show library, and then you can search on a show-by-show basis, whatever you want, whether maybe there's a particular guest you want to listen to, or maybe you just want some fun and silly entertainment, some crazy cartoon sound effects, whatever the hell it is, just check us out. We're on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible. Yes, we're on Audible, Stitcher. You can't get away from us, folks. And plus, many of our stations, whether it's any of our affiliates from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu, all the way over to Atlanta, to Auburn, Alabama, even our friends playing our content down at Texas Tech University, KTXT 88.1 FM on Raider Radio. Thanks for supporting the Sports Circus as well, and of course the student syllabus. Thanks for doing that. But more importantly, folks, make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow us on social media, too. We're just starting to kind of really build up that social media presence. We're not really much into that, but guess what? Now we kind of have to be. And as a matter of fact, now every time we put a video out, we run a video, like right now we're running a video on Instagram, we get a couple, 10,000 people that like it or comment on it or whatever the heck it is. And in fact, our handle on Instagram is TSC Show. TSC Show stands for The Sports Circus Show. Of course, what else? And of course, on Facebook, you can find The Sports Circus by searching Sal Circus. That's me. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and I'm a one-man circus, so obviously that's how you find us. So under Sal Circus as well. And of course, AAMP.TV. Just make sure you like, subscribe, and follow, and you'll actually get free subscription. If you're an Amazon subscriber, an Amazon Prime subscriber, you get everything for free anyway. So the great news is you can watch everything that we're doing, even outtakes and all kinds of crazy things, as if we don't have enough of them on the show. But just make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow everything that we're doing. And of course, wait till you see the guest list as it grows. Got some big guests coming up. And you can find some of those at thesportscircus.com on the homepage. All right. Now, how about a hockey story for you after I do one more football? I have one more football because this one is right here for Las Vegas. And everybody who knows me knows that I'm not really the biggest Raiders supporter. It is what it is, folks. Everybody's got their own favorite teams, etc., etc. Well, the Raiders are not one of mine, although one of my favorite humans is Tom Flores, the former head coach for the Raiders. Tom is one of the good guys in the world. He's kind of like Santa Claus. I love Tom Flores. So nonetheless, here's one for the Raider fans out there. Now, if you think you're bent out of shape about your team, now I'm going to talk about them in a way that you're not going to like. So get over it! Anyway, now we know that the Raiders, the Raiders can't seem to finish the deal. They have now a record number of blown leads. Tied a record, folks, according to the Associated Press, not me. Las Vegas first-year coach Josh McDaniels spoke at a training camp about learning how not to lose. But at the season's midway point, the Raiders have found creative ways to come up short. Oh, yeah. So they're 2-6 after back-to-back losses from the abysmal Saints and the horrific Jaguars. Teams that are a combined 6 wins against 11 losses. And, of course, the Raiders are nowhere near the playoffs nor the picture, and McDaniels is facing tremendous heat from the fan base that isn't shy about bringing up his 11-17 record more than a decade ago with the Denver Broncos. How do you like that, folks? In fact, even his own locker room is on edge, with receiver Davante Adams, saying after their 27-20 loss to the Jags that the play calling strayed away from what worked earlier in the game, and quarterback Derek Carr saying serious internal discussions needed to take place. First of all, before I get into McDaniels' response to this, the Raiders, in my opinion, are one of the least disciplined organizations in the National Football League. I mean, in my opinion, these guys just run amok all over town, right here in Las Vegas. I mean, people get killed, people get arrested, crazy things happen. If you're tied into the Raiders organization, I believe that something not good will continue to happen until they change what? The ownership! Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mark Davis is one of the least wealthy out of all the owners. So the players have no discipline. They seem to run amok. It was certainly different when the old man was there, when Al Davis was there. It was a no BS, just win, baby attitude. Well, guess what? The wheels have come off on the Raiders, and they think they can just throw money at stuff. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. It takes beyond certain levels of leadership. And the leadership comes from the very top all the way down. All the way down. Everybody has to be accountable for everything. And if you're not running an organization that way, well, you better take a look at your organization from an outside viewpoint and say, what the hell's going on? So McDaniel says, quote, they don't have to feel good about losing. People ask me, are you concerned with them? No, I'm not concerned with them. They should be pissed off. We all are. Losing sucks. There's only one way to get through this, and that's with hard work and earn the right to win. Close quote. That was by McDaniels. Now, of course, as far as what changes McDaniels might make, he indicated not to expect anything dramatic. So basically, expect the status quo. And that boo is probably a collective one from the Raider fans here in Las Vegas, and all the money that the taxpayers put up, all the money that the hotels put up for taxes collected for that blasted stadium. Yes, to have a subpar professional football team in there, not to mention, in my opinion, a subpar university play football in there as well, who is in the lower half of just about everything academically, except for hotel hospitality management. University of Nevada, Las Vegas is not a good university, folks. It is what it is. Do your homework, do your checking. I know as a college recruiter, it's not a very good institution, whatever the case. Anyway, McDaniels goes on to say, quote, we're going to try to figure out what we need to do to shift the results. Some of those things might be very minor. And if you change the results of 4 plays, it probably changes the game. And that's how every game is when it's that tight. I definitely am not going to go in there and panic and say we need to uproot everything we've done, close quote. Well, really, Joshua, what the hell have you done in the first place besides lose football games? That's right. That's right. You've lost games. You can't hold on to a lead. You get out to a lead, and then the team chokes. So the offense is McDaniel's specialty, of course. And his 3 Super Bowl rings coordinating New England's offense, among his 6 overall with the Patriots, would suggest that. But even with Devontae Adams at wide receiver, the Raiders are in the middle of the pack in scoring offense, averaging 22.9 points per game. Not much difference than, well, when he got there a year ago, it's 1.1 point. So averaging 22.9 points per game this year. Last season, 21.8. That's a point a game, bro. That's it. You ain't worth that kind of money, in my opinion. And their larger issue has been on defense. I've been saying this forever. The Raiders, first of all, can't stop the run. They cannot stop the run. And why are teams like the Chargers ahead of them? Because the Chargers shored up the running defense. They've got great bookends. They can plug all of the holes, all the gaps. That's the difference. Plus, they could pass rush, too. They got great edge rushers. The problem is the Raiders haven't made those adjustments. You know, they had a good guy in Khalil Mack, who now plays, of course, for the LA Chargers. Of course, I want to say the San Diego Chargers. Anyway, the fact is the Raiders are a really bad defensive team. Their secondary is highly questionable. The front 4 are very mediocre. The second level, very suspect. And you wonder why the Raiders aren't very good. Well, in the same way the University of Southern California has the same problem. The difference is USC, when it comes to offense, they just outscore everybody for the most part. And you're going to have to score 40-plus points, 50 points to beat that team. Well, the Raiders are only averaging 22.9, which is in the middle of the pack, which means, well, more teams are actually scoring more than that. So if they play them head-to-head, chances are the Raiders aren't going to outscore them. And guess what's going to happen? The Raiders will continue to lose. So they say, yes, the bigger issue is on defense. I agree, which wasn't good when McDaniels and his staff got it. And the Raiders are 28th in the league, allowing 25.1 points a game, in the neighborhood of 25.8 points average they gave up last season. Well, guess what? They're basically the same team defensively. If they're only scoring 22.8 a game and they're giving up 25.1 a game, that's a losing team. On paper, it's a losing team. Where's the mystery? Where's the math? This is ridiculous. So McDaniel said, the difference comes down to a handful of plays. Really? And of course, Vegas made those plays last season, winning its final 4 games to eke into the playoffs only for an early exit. And of course, this year's team lost 3 times after leading by 17 points, tying the NFL record, also held by the Chargers from a couple of years ago and the 2003 Atlanta Falcons. From 1984 to 2001, the Raiders went 106-3 in games when they were leading by 17. The Raiders are now 1-3 under McDaniels when leading by 17. How embarrassing. These guys smell. And of course, Josh says, well, I always think there are areas that I could do better. Whatever, dude. These guys aren't playing good football. You better fix this club, buddy, because you took a lot of tax money. Your team took a lot of tax money from the taxpayers right here in the state of Nevada. Fix it, buddy, because your team stinks. Back here in a few. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come. Raiders.
Owners, you and your customers are listening to this commercial right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at 702-799-9935. Again, 702-799-9935, or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
No, but
Zwoele zomerhits.
Klopvaste actua.
De leukste cadeaus. Donna.
The sound of summer.
Radio Donna.
XW Trenton Kicks 101.5. The music you love to hear.
WRFM, Stereo 105.
You're listening to 97 WYNY. WYNY.
C100 WAYB FM 95 Atlantic City.
Today's best music. C100.
What's up, Doc?
Márciusban minden hétvége fantasztikus zenei hétvége a Sláger Rádióban a Coop üzletlánc támogatásával. Ezen a hétvégén felgördül a függöny. Vakítanak
Zijn jouw favorieten?
Donna. Dag en nacht.
De fun.
Hey everybody, this is Barry Katz from the Industry Standard Podcast, and you're listening to the Sports Circus with Sal Tuzzolino.
back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live in Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Of course, a big welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast, including our friends over in Honolulu on CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the San Francisco 49ers, the Alabama Crimson Tide, and the New York Yankees. Got a story involving possibly the Yankees in just a moment. Also, welcoming to everybody that may be listening in with our friends over in Southern California on NBC News and CNBC Financial, right here in Las Vegas, KQQY. Thanks for joining us, as well as WDJY in the greater Atlanta market, and, of course, WAUD, home of the 2021 World Champion Atlanta Braves. So, of course, that title now belongs to the Houston Astros. And, of course, welcoming everybody that is picking up our content over on KTXT Raider Radio over in Lubbock, Texas, Texas Tech University, 88.1 FM, as well as all of our other independents from coast to coast, Cox, Comcast Spectrum, Frontier, Wild Cable Television, Time Warner 2, also Hotel TV, and over 500,000 rooms from coast to coast. All right, college football. How about the AP Top 25? How about LSU surging with 2 losses? Figure that one out. Alabama tumbles down to 10. Basically, they're done. And lots more. So CBS Sports says the college football rankings have a different look at the top after 3 of the top 6 teams lost. Of course, the losses by Tennessee, Bama, and Clemson blew up the AP Top 25. But for all the winners in those games, few teams saw as significant of ranking adjustments as LSU, of course, crashing the top 10 after its dramatic win. What a crazy win that was, right? Going for 2 in overtime. Good for those guys for really laying it out there. You know, we saw something like that in the Orange Bowl a long time ago with Nebraska and Tom Osborne going for 2, going for the win against Miami down in the Orange Bowl. I want to say this was about 1983 or something to that effect. In fact, I think that was Jimmy Johnson's University of Miami Hurricanes. But of course, Nebraska failed in that one, and Miami won the national title. Nonetheless, I can't remember the year, but pretty exciting stuff. That's how LSU won their game, and of course, basically knocked Bama out of the college football playoff scenario. Of course, the Tigers were number 15, being LSU in last week's poll, positioned as the 3rd best 2-loss team in the country, according to the voters. And since those ballots were turned in, 2 things happened that influenced the move all the way to number 7 in those new rankings. Of course, most importantly, they win 32-21 in overtime. And of course, the AP voters also saw the CFP selection committee slot LSU 5 spots higher at number 10. So combine the impressive win with a new perspective of LSU as a top 10 team, yet with 2 losses. And now the Tigers are one of the biggest movers in the poll. Georgia, no big surprise there, which was number 1 in last week's AP. Of course, likely to number 1 this week. And of course, in the CFP, because you knocked off the number 1 CFP team. That's what happens. And of course, Tennessee dropped from number 2 to number 5 in the AP polls after that loss, while the Bulldogs took control of the top spot, collecting all but 1 of the first place votes. Now the loss to LSU had Alabama fallen from 6 to number 10, while Clemson's abysmal 35-14 loss in South Bend sent the Tigers into a free fall from number 5 to number 12. And the win also put Notre Dame back in the AP Top 25 for the first time in 2 months, all the way up to number 20. All the shakeup at the top provided the opportunity for TCU, now 9-0 after a win against Texas Tech. A very good Texas Tech team. Man, they score a lot of points. They're very exciting. So TCU with a comeback win. That's what they do. They're the comeback frogs. And they've basically crashed the top 5. Frankly, that's where they belong. And of course, the Horned Frogs' next game is against Texas, who jumped on the back of the top 25 after a shocking win at Kansas State over in Manhattan, Kansas. How the hell they beat K-State, I'll never know, because Texas is not a very good club. But nonetheless, well, TCU gets to beat up on Texas, which should only strengthen their position. So, top 25, as we know right now, according to the Associated Press, the AP poll kind of means a lot outside of the CFP poll. Georgia, number 1, 62 place votes, first place votes. Ohio State with 1, with a very uninspiring win in Evanston, Illinois, suburban Chicago against Northwestern in the I guess we'll call it the weather storm, if you will. Right? Michigan absolutely bull rushes Rutgers as they're supposed to. TCU jumps to 4. Tennessee drops down to 5. Oregon up to number 6. And Oregon, actually, I think in the CFP poll, has been ranked 5. I'm not really sure on that, but I'll get back to you. But nonetheless, Oregon 6, LSU 7, USC and UCLA 8 and 9. So you've got 3 teams from the Pac-12 at 6, 8, and 9. I wonder if any's really going to get a shot at the college football playoffs. It's been since Washington was the only one to do it a handful of years ago, and they were an early exit in the round of 4. Alabama tumbles to 10. Ole Miss steady at 11. Clemson drops all the way from 5 to 12. Utah solid at 13, another Pac-12 team. Penn State surviving at 14. Carolina with a nice win. They're at number 15. Tulane, how about those guys? How about the Green Wave? Those guys are playing good ball. NC State with their win over Wake Forest bumps up to number 17. Texas somehow is number 18th. Liberty at number 19. How about Liberty? Boy, those guys are pretty good. We got something for Liberty and all those Hugh Freeze guys out there. Notre Dame at number 20. Illinois drops to 21 after getting completely, embarrassed on their own field, in my opinion, by Michigan State. Central Florida at 22. Kansas State tumbles down to 23. Washington out of the Pac-12 at 24. And, of course, Florida State cracks the top 25 after beating a really bad Miami team. Others receiving votes are Cincinnati, Kentucky, Coastal Carolina. Very good Coastal team. Wake Forest still got some votes. Oak State, tumbling Oak State, but they're in a free fall right now. Baylor with a nice win. They get 19 votes. Kansas gets back on the win trail. They get 10 votes. Miss State at 8. South Carolina, Miss State, I got to say, their win over Auburn really wasn't that inspiring. But nonetheless, they get 8 votes. South Carolina 6. The Men of Troy getting 5. UT San Antonio, the Roadrunners, get 5. Louisville 3. Oregon State 3. And San Jose State somehow gets 1 vote. Now, how about that? Now, so we talked about Liberty and Hugh Freeze. How about Hugh Freeze and Liberty toppling, of course, Arkansas? And the media now is pointing to Hugh Freeze to the Auburn job? I don't like this, because the media is going to influence or try to influence. They're going to try to use their spin to try to somehow influence the athletic director and, of course, the War Eagle Nation to hiring somebody instead of Auburn getting a chance to really do what it needs to do and to go find a guy from, somewhere, we'll say either from the Big Ten or from the SEC that could move into that spot, because Auburn's really hurting right now. And frankly, Auburn needs a big-time coach to come in and do big-time things. Auburn's a fine university with fine people. The city of Auburn, our friends are there. We're on the radio right over there at Auburn, WAUD as well. And Auburn is a very proud city. It's a proud university. The student body is proud. The alums are proud. All the boosters are proud. And frankly, they deserve better than their last hire from Harsin. I don't know why the hell they went to the Mountain West to pick up that guy. Anyway, that was a short-lived, colossal waste of time, and it hurt the recruiting trail for Auburn University. Hopefully, they'll pick it back up. But back to this Hugh Freeze story. So, the story goes, Hugh Freeze and the Liberty Flames led Arkansas from start to finish, shutting down the Razorbacks, a pretty good SEC team, and their explosive ground game with a 21-19 game win. And attention, after the game surrounded Hugh Freeze and the Auburn coaching opening, of course, by the media, that is. Tying the two together after the former Ole Miss head coach improved to 8-1, it was Liberty's first win in program history over a school from the SEC. So Liberty jumped out to a 3-touchdown lead before making it a close game, allowing Arkansas back in the game, and it finished 21-19. So with all the quarterbacks and all the plays and stuff, you don't need to hear that crap. But the Flames move up in the polls as speculation surrounding the Auburn job and the potential interest continues. I think it's really the interest by the media. So Freeze signed a multi-year deal with Liberty, and of course it's going to cost Auburn a bunch of money if they go out and try to pull him in. So it appears that, let's face it, Liberty hired Freeze in 2019 after a 3-year coaching hiatus. Then he was the head coach at Arkansas State, a good squad, for just a year in 2011 before Ole Miss hired him. And he went 39-25 in 5 years at Ole Miss. It's respectable in a very, very tough conference. But is he the answer? I don't know. Freeze was fired by the Rebels up in Oxford, Mississippi, after a 5-7 mark in 2016. People don't have short memories in the SEC. They have long memories. They remember stuff. Don't believe them? Ask them. The bigger question is, John Carvalho, a professor of journalism at Auburn, is not in favor of the Freeze noise based on the NCAA cloud that follows his time in Oxford. And Freeze, of course, has led the Flames to winning seasons. And yeah, they're 3-0 in bowl games. I think that's great. But we're talking about the SEC, folks. We're not talking about another conference. This is the SEC. It's basically pro football on the college level. It's the minor league system, if you will, for pro football. So listen, don't listen to this noise made by the media. I think they're trying to sell the idea of Freeze. Oh, he's a hot coach right now. Well, guess what? What'd you do lately in the SEC? You were 5-7, buddy. People don't forget, especially in the SEC. Especially those recruits coming in. They need something to sink their teeth into. Back here in a few minutes on the circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
Hello Americans, it's Uncle Sam here. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes to the IRS or state, don't worry. I've got important news that may help you negotiate a lower tax bill. In today's economy, the IRS has released a variety of new rules and is offering more flexible terms to help Americans looking to settle their IRS debt. If you apply today, we may be able to lift your wage garnishments and release a freeze on your bank assets or business. Our team of tax professionals can resolve your case and stop collection actions against you. Even if you've been audited or haven't filed a return in years, they can help. Call right now and find out if you qualify to settle your IRS debt for far less than what you owe. Pick up your phone right now and call us for a free $500 IRS tax review. Don't wait. Here's the number.
Don't wait. Call right now. 888-794-1630. 888-794-1630. Write it down. 888-794-1630. Again, for the last time, 888-794-1630.
Are you a small business owner or pursuing the dream of starting your own company? Do you know where to start or how to grow that existing business? The American Business Trust Company has the answers you need. The American Business Trust Company can help you start up with capital, business strategy, sales, and marketing, and establish your company with a physical location or an online presence on the internet. You decide. You bring the idea. Then American Business Trust can help with the rest. For a free evaluation, visit them online at abtrustco.com. That's abtrustco.com. Or call them at 657-600-1876. That's American Business Trust Company. 657-600-1876. Call them today. They'll help your business right away. That's American Business Trust Company. Online at abtrustco.com. American Business Trust Company.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door, without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UppercutChops.com. Call 702-799-9935. That's 702-799-9935. 702-799-9935. Or make your selection directly at UppercutChops.com.
Hey, this is Tommy John, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP.TV. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow. Also put it as one of your favorites on your browser as well. All right, this segment brought to you in part by our friends over at Legal Shield, providing legal protection and peace of mind. Legal Shield can help with traffic tickets, texting and driving, DUIs, court appearances, estate planning, maybe someone socked you in the mouth, and you need attorney input. You need some information. Contact Legal Shield. Maybe they can help. 213-245-1305. That's 213-245-1305. Again, 213-245-1305. Or check them out online at nocourt.us. That's www.nocourt.us. Also, for faster response, email them at info@nocourt.us. Yes! All right, welcome back to everybody. Watching on television, listening in on the radio, everybody streaming on Instagram, Facebook, and AMP TV, AAMP.TV, plus Hotel Television, and of course all of our cable affiliates as well. So we left off talking a little bit about Hugh Freeze and Auburn University in the last segment. How about this as a kind of a nice little connector? How about Bo Nix, the former quarterback over at Auburn? He scores, are you ready for this one? Rushing, receiving, and I got to tell you, this guy did it all. Passing, rushing, receiving touchdowns for Oregon in the rout of the Colorado Buffaloes. So the Associated Press says Bo Nix and the Oregon offense tried out some new and creative wrinkles. Now that they really, they didn't really need it. As look, they were an enormous favorite in this game. So basically it was kind of like a scrimmage. You can do all kinds of fun stuff. Have some fun with the game. Why not? It's a kid's game in the first place. And of course, a halfback pass back to Bo Nix for a score. A linebacker plunging in from short. An offensive tackle switching his number to become eligible and hauling in a short touchdown pass on his birthday, no less. Kind of like that. So the do everything Bo Nix, it's weird to say that, right? Because last year he was a little bit questionable. So they do everything Bo Nix led the charge with 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, and of course his touchdown catch as the 8th-ranked Ducks resorted to some trickery to beat the Colorado Buffaloes. They didn't really have to do it. They just had a little bit of fun. And Bo Nix said, we're just dynamic. And you know, it's funny. If you look back at what Bo did in Auburn while he was there, Bo is a good player. But I happen to believe Bo was probably in the wrong system. And that's probably what it was. Because look, this guy is doing exactly what all the reports and all the recruiting reports, everything. That's why Auburn brought him in there. He's doing everything that everybody said he could do. But he's doing it in Oregon. And folks, it's about system, and system. Nothing else. If you're not in the right system, well, who the hell are you? You're just another participant in a bad system. Perfect example, how about the 199th pick overall and a guy by the name of Tom Brady? So he was picked up. Everybody passed on him. 6 times they passed on him. 6 times they passed on him. But he goes to a good system. Well, now he is allegedly, or possibly, the greatest quarterback that's ever played the game. I'd say he's the GLOAT, not the GOAT. He's the greatest leader of all time in sports, right? Maybe not the greatest quarterback. He's certainly in the top 3 or 4. But ultimately, this guy did what? He was drafted into a good system. He learned the system. That's what he did. And he was coached from bottom to top to bottom in 3 dimensions. And this guy turned out to be the superstar's superstar. So are we seeing something similar when it comes to system? You take an average quarterback at one university, turn him into a superstar. You take a superstar, another quarterback, put him in a bad system, and they become bad. Now, we saw that with TJ Finley coming from LSU. Good quarterback, big guy. He goes into Auburn, and he turns into a very average at best quarterback. So that tells me 2 different people. You got Bo Nix, and you got TJ Finley. You got 2 quarterbacks that are good, but they're not necessarily good in that particular system. So we would need 9, right, to get a proper sample size, of course. So we don't have 9 quarterbacks, but maybe over time we might find 9 quarterbacks that failed in a particular system. The point is, folks, You're a product of the system. And Bo Nix seems to be in the right place in Oregon, of course, which has ties to Auburn in the first place. But nonetheless, with the wind howling at 39-mile-per-hour gusts, the Ducks 8-1, 6-0 in the Pac-12, and of course, number 8 in the CFP, breezed to their 8th straight win since their 49-3 loss to Georgia in the season opener. So they really had an attitude adjustment. So, of course, the Ducks dialed up one of the gadget plays, one after another, with, of course, offensive tackle Josh Connerly Jr. catching a 4-yard touchdown pass to open the scoring. And, of course, he says, I didn't realize it until it's after, actually, no, this was by Bo Nix. I didn't realize until after it's his birthday, too, of course. And who got the perfect present for him? So this guy gets to catch a touchdown, who typically wouldn't. Linebacker Noah Sewell got the call, too, scoring on a 1-yard drive. Yeah, right on the 1-yard line. He scored as well. Even Bo Nix got into the trick play act by catching a 18-yard touchdown pass from tailback Bucky Irving. All right, how about that for our friend Colonel Bucky? So there's another Bucky here. Colonel Bucky is our former producer and close friend of the Sports Circus. Now, of course, the Ducks are the first FBS team to have a receiving touchdown from an O-lineman, a receiving score from a quarterback, and a rushing touchdown by a defensive player in the same game since 1996, according to research provided by the University of Oregon. And, of course, Oregon coach Dan Lanning, whose team was 33.5-point favorite in that game against Colorado, according to one of those sports betting, sportsbook people, whatever. And they say, when you're a team that's complete and you're hard to predict, it's harder to really prepare for you. For us, they're not really trick plays when you execute them consistently in the practice. Okay. Well, I guess call it what you will, buddy. But either way, they are trick plays because that's not the common plays. So the Ducks now have scored 40 or more points in 8 straight games for the first time in 8 years. Nice round of applause for them. And Coach Lanning said, quote, we don't care about stats. Stats are for losers. And I'm sure our players take pride in it. And I don't want that to come across the wrong way. The goal is always to win, close quote. But remember, Oregon's playing they're not playing in the SEC. They're not playing in the Big Ten. They're playing in the Pac-12, which is a weaker conference. Sorry. The Big 12 is stronger, in my opinion, than the Pac-12. And, of course, the Big 10 is stronger than the Big 12. And arguably, the SEC is stronger, possibly, than the Big 10. From top to bottom, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure at all. I think the Big 12 and the Big 10, top to bottom, are stronger than the SEC. SEC's got a few powerhouse teams, but when you look top to bottom, they're not that strong as a collective group when you take everybody into account. Nonetheless, Bo Nix turned in another strong performance, completing 20 of 24 for 274, 2 scores. Also, of course, 2 rushing touchdowns, giving him 13 on the ground. And, of course, with his touchdown reception, Nix joins the company of Marcus Mariota 2012 and 2014 and Joey Harrington of 2000 as Oregon quarterbacks who've been on the receiving end of scores since 1996. And, of course, Irving finished with 120 yards rushing, and courtesy of his pass, posted an astonishing pass efficiency rating of 581.2. It's kind of funny. Anyway, Oregon defensive back Christian Gonzalez tormented his former team with a pair of interceptions. Gonzalez earned Pac-12 all-conference honor mention accolades last season for the Buffaloes before transferring to Oregon. Of course, he says, I had a lot of fun, but about the only thing that didn't go well for Oregon was Bo Nix's backwards hook shot looking pass on the 4th down attempt near the end zone. But even that worked out, though, as 2 plays later, Gonzalez intercepted a JT Shroud pass, and it set up a short Nix run to make it 35-10. And there was a scary moment, though, for the Buffaloes, 1-8 and 1-5, in the 4th quarter when talented freshman receiver Jordan Tyson went down with what appeared to be a lower leg injury. Tyson had 5 catches for 137, including an 81-yard score. And the Buffs interim coach, Mike Sanford, said, quote, our thoughts and prayers are with Jordan, close quote. Sanford's team falls to 1-3 since he took him over and after Carl Durrell was let go. So Sanford also said, the things that I'm most proud of with this team is not once have I seen, since I've had the chance to look them in the eyes and on the sidelines, one person quit on the field, close quote. That's pretty good stuff. We like that stuff, so we're going to give a nice little round of applause. That was a gusty day at Folsom Field over in Boulder, which, of course, with rappers and leaves constantly blowing all over the field. On one occasion, the pom-poms from a cheerleader blew onto the field and players tracked them down. Imagine that. And, of course, Irving said, "I'm from Chicago, and it was my type of game." All right, you got to like that stuff. So what's the takeaway to all this? So Oregon, look, they're off to an 8-1 start, but remember, they were clobbered by Georgia in the opening game. They didn't even score a touchdown. Yeah, maybe some nerves. You're playing the national champion, Georgia Bulldogs. Well, and guess what? That wasn't a very good showing. And that's the first time they're 8-1. Better yet, they're off to the 8-1 start for the third time in 4 seasons. Colorado, on the other hand, dropped to 4-34 against AP top 25 teams since they joined the Pac-12 11 years ago. Yeah, 4 wins against 34 losses. That's pretty bad. Colorado, you need a better system. Now, tailback Alex Fontenot said, quote, "I know our team is way better than what we produced on Saturday," close quote. Well, they better be, because guess what? The football season's not over. The Colorado basketball team's not very good. In athletics, generally speaking, from the former Conference of Champions, as the Pac-12 was known as, well, guess what? They're no longer the Conference of Champions. As a matter of fact, 2 of those schools that piled up a large amount of those championships are going to be members of the Big Ten Conference. And you're left with a few good research institutes, right? University of Washington, one of the best schools in the country, public schools. UCLA, one of the top schools, public schools in the country. Of course, Stanford and Cal. And I think Stanford and Cal are likely going to go, in my opinion, to the Big Ten, along with SC and UCLA. And those, of course, are the 2 smartest schools in the Pacific 12 Conference. I think they're going to the Big Ten. And what's that going to leave the Pac-12 with? They're going to have to retool with substandard teams unless somehow they can bring a couple of good schools in. Maybe SMU is one of them. I don't know. But either way, the Pac-12's in big trouble. Oregon may be a little bit overstated here. I think they would have their hands full if they did play USC. And that game would probably end 99-98. Because it seems like neither team has much defense. But nonetheless, that's going to do it for the circus today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal, and we'll see you next time right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of pricking your fingers over and over again. Ouch! Well, by wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of pricking your fingers. If you administer insulin 3 or more times per day or use an insulin pump, call now and learn how a CGM can help you.
Painless. No more pricking my finger.
No finger pricks.
Convenience. They delivered it free and they took care of all the paperwork.
You can reduce pain right away. Plus, it's accurate, easy to use, and helps you spend more time in range. And if you have insurance, you can get a new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost. Call now and get free shipping of your new CGM. Plus, we'll bill your insurance for you. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. 800-659-7805. That's 800-659-7805.